So we're going to take a look at some officer-involved shootings where the officer was injured by gunfire. At this point in 2023, there have been 22 officers that have been killed in the line of duty by gunfire, 2 of which took their own lives, and 157 officers that have been injured. So we're going to start in Lynnville, however you say it, Tennessee. And we have an officer that was injured, and our suspect is William Jones Robbins Jr. He's 64 years old, and he was unharmed, and he was arrested. A Lynnville man is facing a set of attempted murder charges and is also accused of firing a handgun at deputies on Thursday in the 1600 block of Fairview Road. Deputies responded to a home for a suspicious man, later identified as 64-year-old William Jones Robbins Jr. Robbins reportedly barricaded himself and fired at deputies as they opened the back door. Deputies returned fire, but Robbins was not struck. He later surrendered to authorities and was charged with 4 counts of attempted murder. So the 4 counts of attempted murder, assuming there was 4 officers there, one of the officers was hit in the vest. So none of the officers were really injured or hurt in this, but this guy barricades himself into his place, and when the deputies open the back door, he just starts firing on them. And this just shows, again, how dangerous the job of a police officer is. You have to be on alert all the time because everybody's shooting at them. Let's go to Romeoville, Illinois, and we got Officer Dominic Thielman. He was injured, and our suspect, Samer Hernandez, he's 29 years old. He was unharmed and arrested. Romeoville authorities have identified the Romeoville police officer who was shot early Thursday morning during a foot chase with an armed robbery suspect. Dominic Thielman has been with the department for 6 years, and just before 12:15 a.m., Thielman was shot in the right shoulder and is in stable condition. The Romeoville Police Department would like to express sincere gratitude for those who have showed their support for the officer. Police arrested Samir Hernandez about 5.5 hours after the shooting near the intersection of Sierra Trail and Somerville Drive in Romeoville. Hernandez is charged with armed robbery tied to a stolen vehicle. Prosecutors are expected to file an attempted murder charge alleging Hernandez shot the officer. Romeoville has a population of almost 40,000 and is located in Will County, about 26 miles southwest of Chicago. So the most dangerous thing about a dangerous city is your proximity to it. And 26 miles is not far enough away from Chicago to be considered safe, even if it's a good area. So this officer was shot. He gets in a foot chase with this robbery suspect and ends up getting shot by the robbery suspect, who was unharmed in the whole thing and arrested. So let's look at Phoenix, Arizona. We got a DPS trooper who was injured. The Arizona Department of Public Safety says a trooper is in good spirits after being shot multiple times Thursday afternoon in North Phoenix. 2 suspects are now jailed in connection with the shooting. According to DPS, the trooper was conducting an investigation in the area before 1 p.m. when he was shot by a suspect, since identified as 34-year-old Howard Lamar Johnson. Hours after the shooting, Phoenix police tracked down Johnson to a Glendale apartment complex. However, Johnson barricaded himself inside of the apartment, but authorities were able to take him into custody. Authorities later released details of a second suspect, Sonia Hernandez, she's 27, who faces multiple charges for helping Johnson get away. Johnson was taken to the hospital with injuries from the original incident with DPS, but later released. Johnson and Hernandez have been booked into the Maricopa County Jail on various charges. So again, this is just another one of those things. These guys barricade themselves in and then they just start firing on the officers. And this one also says that this is the 32nd officer-involved shooting in Maricopa County and the 41st in the state of Arizona in 2023. And I'm assuming when they say the 32nd officer involved shooting and 41st in the state, that doesn't necessarily mean there were 32 officers that were shot. It could be that an officer shot someone else as well. They call them officer-involved shootings regardless of who the person was, whether it was the officer or the suspect that got shot. Okay, so let's move on to Clifton Park, New York. We got a deputy who was injured and another deputy, 2 deputies that were injured, and our suspect, Anthony Zarameski, he's 23 years old and he was killed. The Saratoga County Sheriff's Office is currently investigating an officer-involved shooting that took place Tuesday morning. 2 officers were shot as they entered the apartment on a warrant for a federal investigation around 5:42 a.m. The occupant was shot by police. All 3 were treated at the hospital. Deputies trying to enter the apartment returned fire after the suspect, 23-year-old Anthony Zarameski, shot at them. He was pronounced dead at Albany Med. One of the deputies was treated and released, and the other underwent emergency surgery for a serious gunshot wound to their thigh. Zarameski has a substantial criminal record. The sheriff is not releasing the names of the deputies. A warrant for the investigation are related to narcotics that involves multiple agencies. The DEA was able to complete successful operations elsewhere, seizing illegal drugs at 3 other locations that were part of the same investigation. So this was where they're dealing with a guy that has a long criminal history. And however you want to look at this, the suspect, he's no longer with us. He was pronounced dead, and it sounds like both of the officers were injured, and the one had a fairly decent serious injury to the thigh, but it sounds like he's going to be okay, and the other guy's going to be okay. So the suspect, with the long criminal history, he's no longer with us. All right, let's go on to Covington, Georgia, where we have our law enforcement officer is Rashad Rivers, and our suspect, Trevorius Stadhill. He's 23, and he was killed. And this one says the law enforcement officer got a gunshot wound to the head. A man was killed, and a Covington police officer was rushed to an area hospital after a shootout at a motel off Interstate 20. Covington police officers responded to a 911 call about 10:30 p.m. after staff at the Oyo Hotel reported a fight between a couple. They were arguing all night, a woman said. The woman said she heard the officer knock on the motel room's door, asked them to open it, but the people inside refused to for a while. She said eventually someone inside opened the door. Not long after that, the gunfight began. He said, put the gun down, put the gun down. And when he said that, I went in my room and shots were fired. That was a woman witness. That's what she saw. The officer was hit in the head. Law enforcement sources say the bullet struck the unnamed officer near the eye and lodged in his jaw. A second officer on the scene returned fire, killing the man, who has now been identified as 23-year-old Trevorius Stadhill of Covington. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation says that Stadhill was shot as he allegedly pointed a gun at the officer, who was down. Medics rushed the officer to the hospital in Atlanta. He is stable and is expected to survive. This is just another example. I mean, every time they go on these calls, anytime you have to go to a door, anytime you have to do anything, they literally have to be on alert 24/7. This guy's new to the force, too, that got shot. He just got sworn in January. So he's new to the force. So we'll see if we won't ever know, but we'll see if he comes back. He joined the department in September of 2022 after graduating the police academy and earning the leadership award for his class. He was sworn in on January 3rd of 2023. So he's only, a handful of months in, and he got shot, in the head. So we'll see how this one turns out. I'll see if I can get a follow-up on this one on one of the other later videos, how this guy turns out, and if it says he's expected to survive, but you get shot in the head, and who knows if he is ever able to go back to work. All right, so let's move on to Quincy, Michigan, where the law enforcement officer was injured. Officer shot while shooting aggressive dog. Unclear if self-inflicted or shot by another officer. Okay, let's see what this dog did. A police officer suffered a gunshot wound during an accidental shooting Sunday morning. Branch County Sheriff Department deputies and Coldwater police officer assisted execution of a warrant at this apartment buildings. The Branch County Prosecutor's Office said police made an arrest Saturday at the location for possession of meth. According to a press release from the Sheriff's Office, officers from the departments were confronted by an aggressive dog. When they entered the front door, the dog bit one officer. Being unable to subdue the dog during the attack, officers had to shoot the dog. The dog survived. During this action, one of the officers obtained a non-life-threatening wound and is in stable condition. The name of the officer was not released. It'll take to Tuesday or Wednesday. Coldwater Police wear body cameras, but the Sheriff's Department has not purchased them. So it doesn't sound like they get body cam footage on this, but what they're saying basically is a dog attacked and they started shooting. It doesn't even show like a suspect or anything. It doesn't say anything about any person actually engaged in this other than they shot the dog who survived, and somehow this officer got shot as well. So assuming he shot himself or another officer shooting at the dog ended up hitting him. Well, so that's all I got for you today. But I just wanted to share some of those officers involved shootings just so you can see just how dangerous the police officer's job is. And we got all these people wanting to defund the police, and they literally put their lives on the line every single day. Every single call they go on could be the last thing they do. Every single one. These were all pretty much kind of the same. They go to a door, some guy's barricaded, someone shoots at them. You know, as soon as they open the door, you know, they end up in a gunfight with somebody. But usually I'll get these and there'll be a lot of traffic stops. There's a lot, it's almost everything they do, they're getting shot at. So anyway, I'm going to try and do these kind of videos on a regular basis. So if you like this kind of stuff, hit the like button, and I'll catch you on the next one.